So with the South African teams really beginning to show off in the URC competition, the Springboks thought it was about time to announce their team that's going to be playing Wales this summer. And, it's a big team. What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. So the Springboks have announced their team that is going to be going on to play in the July internationals in all their games. They got some big games coming up against Wales. We already did a video talking about the Wales team. Those are going to be the games I'm going to be wanting to cover in the most. I think there's going to be some really, really fun games to watch. It feels like a long time since I've been able to talk about international South African rugby. Not since we did the Lions stuff on the channel. So it's going to be really fun to get back into. Now, the South African club level teams have been killing it in the URC. They recently just beat Ulster and Leinster, going through in those semi-finals and stuff now. So they are looking really, really strong. So this Springboks team is going to come in with some good energy into the July internationals and show some really, really good rugby. So what we'll do, as we did in the Wales one, we'll check the team up on here. There's going to be a lot of names. They haven't done any cool graphics, so I'll have to make my own. It'll probably be forwards, then we'll do the backs afterwards. We'll have a run through the team, talk about thoughts on the teams and the players picked. Now, I'm by no means a South Africa rugby aficionado, so if I do get people's names wrong or mispronounce stuff or whatever, please forgive me. Some of these names I will literally be seeing for the first time. So let's start off with the props then. So Thomas du Toit, Stephen Kitshoff, Vincent Koch, Frans Malherbe, Mkunu, I believe it's pronounced, Oxenche, and Trevor Niakane. Now, that is a big set of props. In all honesty, this is a hell of a depth in squad in terms of the props department. Some big names. Another thing that we said in that Wales team was how many players seem to be coming from lots of different teams, whereas I'm beginning to see a bit more cohesion from this team already. I mean, already in this props department, 3 from the Cell Sea Sharks there. So, you know, these lads will have played with each other again. A couple of these are really big names we've seen in that Springboks team a number of times. So not going to be quite as damaging to not have them play the same club level. But I think it's a really, really helpful thing for their team. Doing that Lions tour, we got to see a couple of these lads showing off. People like Trevor Niakane, Oxenche. They are some big boys. They are going to be looking to try and dominate that scrum area when it comes round. In terms of the hookers then, we've got Joseph Dweba, Malcolm Marks, and Mbanambi, whose name everyone always calls me out on because my mouth won't pronounce that guy's name. But 3 really solid hookers. We really don't see a lot of Joseph Dweba. I think I've only really seen him play a couple of games, but he's really, really good. He's playing in Bordeaux now. But I think he's a really good player. It'd be nice to see him get a bit more game time when it comes around to playing some of these Wales games. Malcolm Marks is a absolutely ferocious name going on there. In fact, all 3 hookers here looking really good. I guess technically, if you were going to pick a weak link there, you might aim for Dweba just based on experience or caps. I'm sure some people can drop down in the comments whether they disagree with that. But 3 very, very strong hookers. We know how much that South Africa do love their lineouts and their scrums and their mauls. Big boys like this with a bit of talent behind them. I think it's a really good move. In terms of the locks, which is one of the big key areas in South Africa, they love that line-out working well to really give them the platform to launch from, and there's some big names coming in here. So Lou Diega, who had a really, really good season when he was playing against the Lions. Eben Etzebeth, of course, he's always going to be in there. He's about 8'3", so he's always going to be in there. Salman Morat, who's a name I don't really know. I've really struggled to keep up with the URC, so apologies for any mispronunciations there. But coming on a new debutant, there is actually something like 8 debutants going to be coming in on this team. And that's really nice to see that South Africa aren't just going to go with their standard set players or their sort of old guard players. They're looking to expand. They're looking to have the new boys in. It was one of the big criticisms I actually gave to the Wales team announcement was there wasn't enough. There wasn't enough new people. They're bringing back all these old people who've played for such a long time. I think you get some new cap players in there, especially with the World Cup around the corner. Don't think it's a bad move at all. We also got Ruan Nortje. I'm going to have a guess at the pronunciation there again, someone I don't know, unfortunately, and Marvin Ori. So I'd say the 2 big names for me there, starting out Lou Diego and Eben Etzebeth. They are people that we've seen an awful lot in this Springboks team, so I can imagine they'll probably be getting a starting. But nice to see a couple of uncapped players there. Hopefully we'll be getting a bit of time in the July internationals. On to the loose forwards then. Peter Steph du Toit, who is a really good player. I'm a big fan of his. Marcel Coetzee coming in there from the Vodacom Bulls, I believe he plays for. But again, he's a name that I'm seeing an awful lot recently coming up on the timeline. The Bulls doing quite well in the URC as well. Sia Khaleesi, of course, needs to be in there. I'm not sure if I have on this list anyway who's actually been announced to be like the captain. I would imagine Sia Khaleesi's probably in line to be taking that captaincy again. I don't actually think I've got it written down here, unfortunately. Elrai Lau, again, sorry for pronunciations. Evan Roos. Now, this is a player who's coming in as an uncapped player, but every single week, all I see on YouTube or Facebook or anything that comes up about highlights going on from the Stormers games, Roos is just in the middle of all of it. He is looking really, really strong. I've seen a couple of people already calling for him to just have that number 8 shirt. He's looking really, really good. So hopefully we get to see a bit of game time from him. Quagga Smith, again, big fan of his. I think he's a really, really good player. And then finally, I think it's Jasper Weiss. I was going to call him Jasper. I'm sure someone could drop it down in the comments because I think a lot of J's in South Africa are a sort of Y sound. So I believe it's Jasper Weiss. He plays over at the Leicester Tigers. So, wow, a lot of big names there. A lot of weight as well. There's technical players, there's tall players, there's weight-based players. I think this is going to play alongside what we see in that South African sort of technique where they have the big boys, they like power, they like using the forwards, they like just playing the game at their own speed. I think this is the way to do it. Also on the list here, we have a list of utility forwards. Now, this is, I'd say, a little bit more of a Southern Hemisphere thing to have these utility forwards, utility backs. A lot of the Northern Hemisphere, we tend to sort of wrap them up into one team. So we'll run through them. Reinhard Elstad from Toulouse going in there. Dion Fowry. Not sure of him playing for the Stormers. That name doesn't ring a bell at all, actually. So we'll be interested to see how he gets on. And then finally, Franco Mostert. So a couple of people here may not know a bit about utility forwards. So what I can gather from Southern Hemisphere when we talk about utility forwards, what we're really talking about is a forward who's more than capable of playing more than one position. I think a lot more in the Northern Hemisphere, we would just sort of put them in, someone would be a flanker, or if they were sort of willing to play flanker or number 8, we would just have them in that back row sort of deal. So just for anyone sort of new to rugby wants a bit more of that, and if anyone from South Africa wants to drop down in the comments a bit of a further expanded explanation of that, feel free to drop it down. But as far as forwards goes, some big names in here. Like I said, really nice to be seeing uncapped players in here. Really nice to be seeing a bit of a new team coming in here from what we saw versus that Lion squad. A couple of big names sort of not mentioned in here. Dwayne Vermeulen, probably the big one. I haven't seen here. I'm going to guess an injury. I haven't followed up on it too much. I thought he played really well when we did that Lions tour. He was one of the key players in charge of the defensive setup. So I don't know if he missed out based on form. Again, someone might be able to drop down a little bit more there. But hey, when you've got people like Evan Roos who's just smashing it in that number 8, maybe this could be a bit more of a attacking-based South Africa squad rather than just sort of using the power. Maybe we'll be seeing a bit of speed from the big boys. Could be really nice to see. Moving on to the Scrum Halves then. There's a lot of Scrum Halves mentioned in this team, so there might be a little bit something behind this that I might have missed out on. So we've got Faf de Klerk coming in there, of course. A lot of people will probably be the first choice Scrum Half for South Africa. Jaden Hendrikse, Herschel Janties, Cobus Reinach, and Grant Williams. Now, 5 Scrum Halves going in. I think from the Wales team we saw 3, if I'm correct. It's been a little bit of a while since I made that video. 5 is a lot, considering if they're going to do big rotation, maybe we're going to be seeing a lot of these players getting half a game rather than playing a full game. 5 seems like a lot. Now, the only thing that I can think here is going to be mixed in with the fly halves. When we look at the fly halves, we've only got 2 fly halves named as outright fly halves, being Elton Janties and Andre Parlad. Now, again, someone from South Africa, I know we have a good amount of South African subscribers, might be able to fill me in. Are any of the Scrum Halves also very capable of playing fly half if you need them to? Because to me it feels like they've got maybe too many Scrum Halves, but then maybe not enough fly halves. I mean, only having 2 fly halves, I think, again, Wales had 3 mentioned, I think. Only having 2, 1 injury followed by another yellow card, who's going to fill in a later game or what have you. I feel like maybe they would need someone else. I'm sure someone might be able to. Damien Willemser is also mentioned later on. I know he's more than happy to do like kicking duties and stuff, but just to play fly half, maybe one of the Scrum Halves is able to do that. I'm not sure. Maybe someone will be able to fill me in a little bit more on that one. On to the centres then, one of the key areas where South Africa really begin to actually flourish here. And to be honest, there's some big names in here. So Lukhanyo Am, of course, people have called him the best centre in the world currently. I think he's playing really good rugby. Damien Dialende plays over at Munster, who is aggressive, to say the least. He's willing to go through you. Andre Esterhuizen, who plays over at Harlequins, I believe. He's looking really good. He's looking quite in form at the minute, so nice to see him in there. And then finally, Jesse Creel. So another big name. So in terms of centres, good depth, but also good ability in the centre there. Doesn't really seem to be a great deal of weak links in that centre area. That could be really tough for a couple of the Wales team. When we did the Wales video, I spoke about how I feel like there's the potential for those centre partnerships to mess up a little bit, and playing some of these lads, I've got a feeling that centre area could be a big deciding factor in a couple of those games. Then we've got the outside backs. Now, again, we've got the utility backs and outside backs is sort of one thing, so we'll sort of go through them all. So outside backs, Afalele Fassi, who plays over at the Sharks, who's been playing really well recently. Warwick Gallant, or Gelant, I've heard a couple of different pronunciations, plays over at the Stormers. Cheslin Colby coming back into the team. Now, one thing that I, of course, did talk about in that Wales thing was how Wales lost that game against Italy to someone like Capuzzo, and luckily, South Africa don't really have any of these like really short, really fast, good stepping wingers, and in comes Cheslin Colby just to ruin it. Absolutely great player. I think it's going to be a nightmare for him to try and stop. Willie LaRue also in there, who, again, I think, can Willie LaRue also play a fly half as well? I think there's a couple of more people that can play at fly half. I can't believe they just picked 2 fly halves and only 2 fly halves. I'm sure people are also able to play that if you really need them to. And then finally, Mapimpi coming in from the Sharks there, who we just know he's a bit of a try-scoring machine. One thing I'm really looking at here in terms of these outside backs, in terms of the wingers named, what I'm seeing here is quite clinical finishers. Now, this is something that, again, a couple of teams miss out. They have really solid wingers who are just good for speed or good for moving the ball up the field stuff. What I'm seeing here is lads that will actually be able to finish tries. This could be suggesting that they may not be playing the standard game, just the South African forwards, letting the teams wear down, bring on the bomb squad the second half. I'm sure we'll be seeing a little bit of that. But people like Cheslin Colby, Mapimpi, Afalele Fassi at the minute, they're doing solid finishing. If they're getting within that sort of 5-10 metres of the line, they're getting the try. So it'd be really nice to see that they might be looking for a couple of games to try and spread it wide, get some of these wingers a little bit more involved, get over that try line, take the 5 points. Really nice to see. And then finally, in terms of the utility backs, we have Kurt Lee Orenza from the Bulls, who's a name I do not know at all, so looking forward to see a bit from him. And then finally, Damien Valemsa coming in there as well. So overall, as a team, this is a big South African team, and I'm liking team where they've gone. Having called a couple of games from the URC, I've been moving house, so it's been quite difficult to keep up with a lot of the club level rugby. But what I'm seeing here is they seem to be actually picking teams based on good form. People like Evan Roos, I'm seeing every week in a highlight reel. So I'm believing there are a couple of these other players as well coming in here. 8 uncapped players. I'm picking them based on, are they in form? Are they playing well? I think it's a really good move. You don't want to just rely on that old guard. And I think this could be a key area when it gets around to some of the South Africa versus Wales games. It was one of the big things that I mentioned. Wales are just seem to be picking a lot of these players. High caps, high experience, great. But you want to be building a depth in squad and maybe not just relying on the named players, the big names that you have in the team. You want to be picking people that you believe are genuinely good right now, and not looking at what they did 3, 4, 5 years ago. And I think South Africa have got this down in quite a nice balance, to be fair. There seems to be a lot of sort of old guard players who we know have the technical ability to play at Springboks high level rugby, but also getting people that are quite in form, uncapped players who are playing well. And finding that balance to be, pretty bang on is not just the opportunity for you to have a really good July internationals. We could be looking now towards that World Cup. And if you get some of these players, some of the uncapped players who are in form, if you give them the confidence now, get them a bit of international game time. It is totally different to playing the club levels. Get them that experience, get them confident in playing that international level. You will only boost these players higher. You'll get more out of them. And when it gets around to that World Cup, you'll have a much bigger depth of squad, not only based on talent, but also based on current form, which I think is a really good move. This spring Springboks team is looking really, really good to me. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I know we have a lot of South African subscribers who would really like to get involved when we talk about South African rugby, which is a lot of fun for someone based in Wales as well. I'm going to be watching all these games. We are going to be doing a lot of coverage. So make sure you do drop down your thoughts on it. Who are some players that I should be looking out for? Someone maybe not completely versed in South African rugby. Who would you say, keep an eye on that lad? Or keep an eye on this uncapped player over most? Because there'll be something when we get round to doing some of the preview things, where we go around to some of the match reports of games that are going to be happening between South Africa and Wales. I can keep a bit of a closer eye on them. It'll help me make better content for you guys. So make sure you do drop that down in the comments. If you enjoyed this coverage today, guys, make sure you do leave this video a like, and to keep up with all the rugby news as we get closer to the July internationals, make sure you are subscribed to the channel just to keep up to date when all the latest videos come out. I hope you all enjoyed today, guys, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.